Daniel Carter stood at attention as the transport ship descended through the clouds of Prime. Through the viewport, he could see the Imperial Palace rising from the center of the capital city like a mountain of crystal and steel. It was the year 2287, and humanity had finally earned a seat at the Galactic Council after 50 years of isolation. This meeting would determine if humans were truly welcome among the stars or merely tolerated. First time seeing the palace, Ambassador Lisa Park asked from beside him. She was reviewing data files on her tablet, barely glancing at the view. Daniel nodded. "It's bigger than I expected." "The Empire controls a third of known space," Lisa said. "Queen Min has ruled for 12 years. She's known for being practical and cold. Don't expect warm welcomes." Daniel had heard the stories. The Queen had lost her husband 5 years ago in an assassination. Since then, she had become even more distant and calculating. Her people respected her strength but whispered that she had forgotten how to feel. The transport landed on a platform that jutted out from the palace's eastern tower. Guards in silver armor waited at the entrance. Their faces showed no expression as the human delegation stepped onto their world. "Ambassador Park," one guard said in clipped tones, "you are expected. Follow the designated path, do not deviate." Lisa smiled politely. "Of course, we appreciate the hospitality." The guard did not respond. He simply turned and walked toward the palace entrance. Daniel exchanged glances with Brandon Cole, another security officer. Brandon raised an eyebrow slightly. The message was clear. They were not guests here. They were barely tolerated visitors. The palace interior was stunning. Walls seemed to be made of flowing light, shifting between colors Daniel had no names for. Gardens grew in impossible places, defying gravity with trees that hung from ceilings and flowers that floated in midair. Everything spoke of advanced technology far beyond what Earth possessed. Palace officials guided them through corridor after corridor. Daniel noticed security gaps everywhere. Guards stood at fixed positions, following rigid patterns. Beautiful, yes, but inefficient. He had been a combat medic before joining diplomatic security. Old habits made him scan for weaknesses and threats even in peaceful settings. They entered a massive garden courtyard where the formal reception would take place. Hundreds of nobles filled the space, dressed in elegant robes that seemed to shimmer with inner light. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat Queen Min on her throne. She was younger than Daniel expected, perhaps in her early 40s by human standards. Her face was beautiful but completely expressionless. She wore robes of deep blue that flowed around her like water. Beside her throne stood a small girl, maybe 7 years old, watching the proceedings with curious eyes. "That's Princess HFY," Brandon whispered, "the Queen's only child." The princess was adorable, with her mother's elegant features but none of her coldness. She fidgeted in her formal clothes and kept glancing at the human delegation with obvious interest. Ambassador Park stepped forward and bowed in the manner. "Your Majesty, humanity is honored by this invitation. We come seeking mutual understanding and prosperity." Queen Min inclined her head slightly. "Ambassador, your people are new to the council. We will see if you are worthy of the trust you seek." Her voice was flat, giving away nothing. Around the courtyard, Daniel heard nobles murmuring among themselves. He caught words like primitive and inferior species. His jaw tightened, but he kept his face neutral. This was Lisa's show, not his. The reception began with formal speeches and traditional ceremonies. Daniel stood at his position near the delegation, trying not to look bored. His eyes kept wandering to the architecture. The garden was built on multiple levels, with platforms and walkways that seemed to defy physics. Princess HFY had slipped away from her mother's side. She moved through the crowd with the confidence of a child who had never known danger in her own home. She approached the human delegation, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Are you really from Earth?" she asked in perfect English, looking up at Daniel. Daniel smiled. Yes, Your Highness, born and raised in California. Is it true your world is so dangerous that everything tries to kill you? The princess's eyes sparkled with excitement. Before Daniel could answer, an official hurried over. Princess, you should not speak with the visitors without proper protocol. The girl's face fell, but she nodded obediently. She returned to her mother's platform, but kept glancing back at the humans. An hour into the reception, Queen Min invited the delegates to view the palace gardens from the ancient viewing platform. It was a structure built 1,000 years ago, preserved as a historical monument. Nobles gathered around it, admiring the view of the city below. Daniel hung back with the other security officers. He watched Princess Haywan playing near the platform's edge, tracing patterns in the decorative stones. Something felt wrong. The platform was old, yes, but the support beams looked damaged. Metal showed stress fractures that no one else seemed to notice. He started to move forward when he heard it, a deep grinding sound that made his stomach drop. The platform lurched. Nobles screamed and backed away. Princess Haywan stood frozen at the center, her eyes wide with terror. The ancient structure was collapsing. Guards were 20 meters away, too far to reach her in time. They stood paralyzed, bound by protocol that required permission before touching royalty. Daniel did not think. His body moved on instinct, legs pumping as he sprinted across the courtyard. He heard Lisa shout his name. He heard the grinding metal getting louder. None of it mattered. Only the child mattered. He reached the platform as it tilted sharply. His boots hit the ancient stone and he lunged forward. Princess Haywan reached for him, her small hand grasping at air. Daniel caught her around the waist and pulled her against his chest. The platform gave way beneath them. They fell through empty air. Below, decorative rocks jutted up like teeth. Daniel twisted his body in mid-fall, wrapping both arms around the princess. He turned so his back faced the ground. In that moment, falling through space, Daniel looked into the child's terrified eyes and smiled. He wanted her last memory to be of kindness, not fear. Then his back struck stone, and the world exploded into pain. He felt ribs crack. Something in his shoulder shattered. His head bounced off rock and his vision blurred. But his arms stayed locked around Princess Haywan, protecting her small body with his own. They hit the ground and rolled. Daniel's grip loosened as consciousness began to slip away. Strong hands pulled the princess from his arms. He heard her crying, heard her calling for her mother. Daniel tried to focus. "Is she hurt?" he managed to whisper. A guard looked down at him with shock. "The princess is safe. You saved her." Daniel let out a breath. His vision was fading, darkness creeping in from all sides. He heard running footsteps, heard Brandon's voice shouting for a medic, but it all seemed very far away. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Queen Mint's face above him. For the first time, emotion showed in her eyes. It looked like fear. Then Daniel Carter collapsed completely and knew nothing more. Pain was the first thing Daniel felt when consciousness returned. It filled every part of his body, sharp and burning. He tried to move and immediately regretted it. His back felt like broken glass grinding together. "Don't move," his voice cut through the fog. "You've got 3 broken ribs, a shattered collarbone, spinal trauma, and a serious concussion. Moving is a bad idea right now." Daniel forced his eyes open. He was in a medical bay, surrounded by equipment that hummed and beeped. Stood beside the bed, looking exhausted. Brandon Cole paced near the door, his face tight with worry. "The princess," Daniel's voice came out as a rough whisper. "Minor scratches," said. "You took the full impact. 30 feet onto solid rock, you should be dead." Daniel tried to smile, but it hurt too much. "How long was I out?" 6 hours, Brandon said, stopping his packing. "They moved you to the Royal Medical Wing. The Queen herself ordered it." That was surprising. Daniel had expected to be treated in the human quarters, if at all. Why? Because you saved her daughter, said quietly. They are logical people, but even they understand debt. The door opened and Ambassador Lisa Park entered. She looked relieved to see Daniel awake. How are you feeling? Like I fell off a building, Daniel said. That's accurate, Lisa said without humor. She pulled a chair close to his bed. Daniel, what you did broke every protocol we have. You could have caused a diplomatic incident. I saved a child. Yes, Lisa agreed. And because of that, everything has changed. The Queen wants to speak with you when you're able. Before Daniel could respond, pain flared through his chest. Checked the monitors and his expression darkened. His internal injuries are worse than we thought. There's bleeding we can't stop with our equipment. Use equipment, Brandon suggested. We can't, said. Their medical technology is designed for their biology, not ours. Their scanners can't even properly read human tissue. We're working blind here. The door opened again. A tall in medical robes entered, followed by two assistants. I am Dr. Hoon, personal physician to the royal family. Her Majesty has ordered me to assist in treating the human. Straightened. With respect, doctor, our biologies are incompatible. Your technology might do more harm than good. I am aware of the complications, Dr. Hoon said coolly. However, the alternative is allowing him to die. Is that preferable? The two doctors stared at each other, finally nodded. We work together. You don't touch him without consulting me first. Agreed. For the next several hours, Daniel drifted in and out of consciousness as the medical teams worked. He heard them arguing in technical terms he did not understand. Sometimes the pain decreased. Sometimes it spiked so badly he wanted to scream. When he woke again, it was dark outside the medical bay windows. Someone small sat in a chair beside his bed, holding his hand. Princess Haywan looked up at him with red eyes. She had been crying. You're awake. Hey there, Daniel whispered. Shouldn't you be in bed? I wanted to make sure you were okay, she said softly. Mother says you saved my life. The guards say you fell on purpose to protect me. They're right. Why? The princess's voice broke. You don't even know me. Daniel squeezed her small hand gently. You're a kid. Kids are always worth saving. That's just how it works. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Please don't die. I don't want you to die because of me. I'm not going to die, Daniel promised, though he was not sure he believed it. The door opened and Queen Min entered. She stopped when she saw her daughter at Daniel's bedside. Haywan, you should not be here. The human needs rest. He's my friend, the princess said stubbornly. Friends visit each other. Something flickered across the queen's face. Surprise, maybe. She looked at Daniel and for a moment her mask of cold control slipped. He saw exhaustion and worry in her eyes. Thank you, she said simply. You saved what matters most to me. Anyone would have done the same, Daniel replied. No, Queen Min said firmly. No one else moved, not my guards, not my nobles. Only you, a stranger from a species my people call primitive. You moved without hesitation while those who swore to protect my daughter stood frozen. She was silent for a moment, then spoke again. You have been granted the highest honor I can bestow. You are under royal protection. My physicians will do everything possible to save your life. Thank you, Your Majesty. The queen nodded and gently took her daughter's hand. Come, Haywan, let him rest. The princess squeezed Daniel's hand one more time before leaving. Queen Min paused at the door and looked back. My people say emotions make you weak. Tonight, I wonder if we have been wrong about many things. Then she was gone. Daniel closed his eyes, exhausted. Sleep came quickly, but it was not peaceful. His body was fighting a battle it might not win. When morning came, his face told Daniel everything he needed to know. The news was bad. Your body is rejecting the treatments, explained. We've stabilized you temporarily, but without proper surgery using human-compatible equipment, you have maybe 24 hours. Can we get the equipment here in time? Daniel asked. No, it would take 3 days minimum from Earth. Dr. Hoon stood nearby, his expression troubled. There is an experimental procedure. We could combine nanotechnology with human surgical techniques. It has never been attempted. What are the risks? Brandon asked. High probability of failure, the doctor said honestly. However, without attempting it, death is certain. Lisa Park entered the medical bay, followed by several stern-looking officials. One of them spoke immediately. Her Majesty, the Queen is wasting valuable resources on this human. The High Council demands an end to this pointless effort. The Queen ordered his treatment, Lisa said coldly. The Queen allows emotion to cloud her judgment, the official replied. This human's death would be unfortunate but natural. To spend royal resources to use experimental procedures, this is excessive. He saved the princess, Brandon said, his voice dangerous. And we are grateful, the official said without feeling. But gratitude must have limits. We have important negotiations to complete. This distraction serves no one. Lisa's hands clenched into fists. If Daniel dies because you refuse to help, humanity will remember. Is that a threat, Ambassador? Before Lisa could respond, the doors burst open. Queen Min strode in, her face thunderous. The officials immediately bowed. You dare, the Queen said quietly, to question my orders in my own palace. Your Majesty, we only seek to remind you of practical concerns, the official stammered. This human saved my daughter's life, Queen Min said. He did what my own guards failed to do. He sacrificed his body to protect what I hold most precious, and you suggest I abandon him to death. We merely suggest that resources could be better used. Silence! The Queen's voice cracked like a whip. Daniel Carter is under my personal protection. Dr. Hoon, you will perform the experimental procedure. You will use whatever resources necessary. If anyone interferes, they will answer to me personally. The officials fled. The Queen turned to Daniel, and again he saw that crack in her cold exterior. You will not die in my palace, Daniel Carter. I refuse to allow it. Thank you, Daniel whispered. Princess Haywan appeared beside her mother, tears streaming down her face. Please save him, mother, please. Queen Min touched her daughter's hair gently. I will do everything in my power. She looked at Dr. Hoon. Begin preparations immediately. I will authorize whatever you need. As the medical teams rushed to prepare, Daniel felt a strange sense of peace. Whatever happened next, he had done the right thing. The princess was safe. That was all that mattered. But as consciousness began to slip away again, he heard Princess Haywan's voice calling his name, begging him not to leave. And somewhere in the darkness, he decided he would fight to survive. The High Council met in emergency session while Daniel Carter lay unconscious in the Royal Medical Wing. 12 members sat in a circle, their faces showing various degrees of disapproval. At the head sat Council Leader Sung, his expression grave. The Queen's emotional response to this incident is becoming problematic, he announced. She has diverted resources from military projects to fund experimental medical procedures for a single human. This sets a dangerous precedent. The human did save Princess Haywan, another council member pointed out. For which we are grateful, Sung said. But gratitude has limits. Our people value logic and strength. The Queen is displaying weakness by allowing sentiment to guide policy. Some of our citizens disagree, a younger council member said carefully. News of the human sacrifice has spread. Many are moved by his actions. Sung frowned. Sentiment is not policy. We must consider the larger implications. If the human dies despite our efforts, humanity may use this as leverage against us. If he lives, they may expect similar treatment for all their people. Either outcome is problematic. In the medical bay, preparations continued for the experimental surgery. Dr. Hoon reviewed data on holographic displays while studied human anatomy charts. The two medical teams had been working together for hours, building a procedure that had never been attempted before. The biggest challenge, Dr. Hoon explained to the gathered team, is that our nanotechnology will attempt to repair damage using biology as a template. For a human, this could be fatal. So we programmed it to follow human biological patterns, said. Can that be done? In theory, yes. In practice, it will require constant monitoring and adjustment. The surgery could take many hours. Brandon Cole stood guard outside the medical bay doors. Ambassador Lisa Park sat nearby, her face drawn with exhaustion. Neither had slept since the accident. This is bigger than just Daniel now, Lisa said quietly. If we lose him, if the can't or won't save him, it will confirm everything the anti-alien factions on Earth have been saying. And if we save him, Brandon asked, then maybe we prove that different species can work together, that we're more than just tolerated newcomers. Queen Min stood in her private chambers, looking out over the palace gardens. Her daughter slept fitfully on a couch nearby, refusing to return to her own rooms. The queen had not slept at all. She thought back to 5 years ago when assassins had killed her mate. She had built walls around her heart after that, becoming the cold and calculating ruler her people expected. Emotion was weakness. Logic was strength. That was the way. But tonight, watching a human stranger sacrifice himself for her daughter, those walls had cracked. She remembered the moment clearly, the platform collapsing, her own guards frozen by protocol, and the human Daniel Carter running without hesitation. No calculation, no concern for his own safety, just pure instinct to protect a child. In that moment, he had displayed more courage than her entire royal guard combined. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she said. Dr. Hoon stepped inside and bowed. "Your Majesty, we are ready to begin the procedure. I must warn you, the chances of success are not high." "How long will it take?" "We estimate 6 hours, possibly longer if complications arise." Queen Min nodded slowly. "I will observe from the medical bay." Dr. Hoon looked surprised. "Your Majesty, that is not necessary. We will keep you informed of progress." "Nevertheless, I will be there." The doctor bowed again and left. The queen looked at her sleeping daughter and felt something she had not allowed herself to feel in years. Fear. Not just fear of losing the human who had saved Haywan, but fear of what his death would mean. It would prove that her people had truly lost something important, something that made the humans brave despite their primitive technology. The surgery began at dawn. Daniel was transferred to a sterile chamber where both human and medical equipment surrounded the operating table. Dr. Hoon led a team of 6 specialists while coordinated 2 human medics. Queen Min watched from an observation deck above. She had brought Princess Haywan despite the child's protests about being scared. "You must see this," the queen told her daughter gently. "You must understand what he is enduring for your sake." The procedure started smoothly. Dr. Hoon made the first incisions while monitored Daniel's vital signs. Were injected into the damaged tissue, programmed to repair according to human biological patterns. For the first hour, everything went according to plan. They began rebuilding broken bones and torn tissue. Daniel's vital signs remained stable. Then problems began. "They are adapting faster than expected," Dr. Hoon said with concern. "They're trying to optimize the repairs using patterns." "Reprogram them," ordered. "Force them back to human specifications." The doctor's hands flew over the controls. They responded, but the constant reprogramming was taking its toll on Daniel's body. His heart rate increased dangerously. 2 hours became 4. 4 became 6. The medical teams worked without rest, making constant adjustments. What should have been straightforward repairs became a battle to keep the foreign technology from killing the patient it was meant to save. Princess Haywan gripped her mother's hand tightly. "Is he going to be okay?" I don't know, Queen Min admitted, unable to lie to her daughter. In the 8th hour, Daniel's body began to fail. His blood pressure dropped sharply. Alarms sounded throughout the medical bay. "We're losing him," shouted. "They are attacking his immune system." Dr. Hoon worked frantically to disable the malfunctioning technology, but removing the now would leave the repairs incomplete. Daniel would die either way. "There must be something else we can do," the doctor said desperately. Queen Min stood abruptly. She left the observation deck and descended to the sterile chamber. The medical teams looked up in shock as their queen entered the operating room. "Your Majesty, you cannot be here," Dr. Hoon protested. "There is an old technique," Queen Min said, "from before we had technology, a way to stabilize dying patients using our own life energy." "That is ancient superstition," Dr. Hoon said. "Is it? You told me yourself that some of the old ways are beyond our understanding. My grandmother taught me this technique before she died. It has not been used in over a century, but the royal bloodline maintains the knowledge." She moved to Daniel's side and placed her hands over his chest. Closing her eyes, she began to focus her energy the way her grandmother had shown her as a child. It was not magic, not technology. Something deeper, something they had abandoned in their pursuit of logic. The medical teams watched in stunned silence as a faint glow appeared beneath the Queen's hands. Daniel's vital signs, which had been plummeting, began to stabilize. But something unexpected happened. The technique created a temporary biological link between Queen and human. Through that connection, Min experienced Daniel's memories. She saw a teenage Daniel standing at a hospital bedside. His younger sister was dying from an accident that could have been prevented if someone had acted faster. She felt his grief, his guilt, his desperate wish that he could have done something. She saw him training as a combat medic, driven by the need to save others. She saw him volunteer for dangerous missions, putting himself in harm's way again and again. And she saw the moment on the platform. In that split second before he ran, Daniel had known he would probably die. He had made peace with it. Saving the child was worth any price, even his life. The connection faded, but it left Queen Min changed. She stumbled back from the operating table, tears streaming down her face. She had not cried since her mate's death 5 years ago. "Your Majesty," Dr. Hoon reached out to steady her. "Continue the surgery," she whispered. "He will survive. I will not allow anything else." The doctor nodded and returned to work. Daniel's vital signs had stabilized. The crisis had passed. Whatever the Queen had done, it had worked. The surgery continued for another 4 hours. Dr. Hoon worked in perfect coordination now, understanding each other's methods. They were finally under control, completing their repairs properly. When it was finished, 14 hours after it began, Daniel Carter's body was whole again. Damaged tissue had been repaired. Broken bones were healing. He was not conscious, but he was stable. Queen Min stood in the observation deck with her sleeping daughter in her arms. She watched the medical teams clean up and move Daniel to a recovery room. Her own energy was drained from the technique she had performed, but she felt more awake than she had in years. Dr. Hoon approached her later. "Your Majesty, the human will live. He needs time to recover, but the worst is past." "Thank you, Doctor. You and your team have done remarkable work." "If I may ask, what did you experience during the connection?" Queen Min was quiet for a long moment. "I experienced what it means to be truly brave," she finally said. "Not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. We have forgotten that courage and emotion are not weaknesses. They are strengths we abandoned." News of the successful surgery spread quickly through the palace and beyond. Council leader Sung could not openly oppose the Queen's actions now, not when the story had captured the imagination of citizens across the empire. The human who sacrificed himself for a child had become a symbol. But not everyone was pleased. In the shadows, General Sang-min and his traditionalist faction saw the Queen's actions as confirmation of their worst fears. She was becoming soft, allowing inferior species to influence culture. They began to plan. Daniel woke slowly, consciousness returning in pieces. He heard voices around him, quiet and concerned. His body felt strange, both better and worse than he remembered. The sharp pain was gone, replaced by a deep ache that told him he had been seriously hurt but was healing. He opened his eyes to find Princess Haewon asleep in a chair beside his bed. Her small hand rested on his arm. Her face was peaceful in sleep, but he could see tear tracks on her cheeks. "Welcome back." Daniel turned his head carefully and saw Queen Min standing near the window. She looked different somehow, still regal and controlled, but there was warmth in her eyes that had not been there before. "How long?" Daniel asked, his voice rough. "3 days since the surgery. You gave us quite a scare." She moved closer to his bed. "How do you feel?" "Like I was hit by a truck," Daniel admitted. "But alive. I wasn't sure I would be." "You almost weren't." The Queen sat in another chair, her movements graceful despite obvious exhaustion. "Dr. Hoon says the surgery was successful, but it was a near thing. You will recover fully, but it will take time." Daniel looked at the sleeping princess. "She's been here the whole time." "She refused to leave. My daughter is quite stubborn when she chooses to be. She says you are her friend and friends stay together." Queen Mint's voice softened. "She has been drawing pictures for you. Would you like to see them?" "I'd like that." The Queen retrieved a stack of papers from a nearby table. Daniel looked through them slowly. They were child's drawings, simple but heartfelt. Pictures of him and the princess playing together. Images of him with a cape like a superhero. One showed them holding hands under a rainbow. "She's very talented," Daniel said quietly. "She has her father's artistic gift." The Queen paused. "I must thank you properly. You saved what matters most to me. There are no words adequate for such a debt." "You don't owe me anything," Daniel said. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Queen Mint's voice was firm. "That is what I would have thought 3 days ago, but during your surgery I learned something important. No one else moved that day. My guards stood frozen. My nobles backed away. Only you ran toward danger without hesitation. That is not what anyone would do. That is what a brave person does." Daniel was about to respond when Princess Haewon stirred. Her eyes opened and focused on him. For a moment she just stared, as if afraid he was a dream. Then her face lit up with pure joy. "You're awake." She threw her arms around him carefully, mindful of his injuries. "I knew you wouldn't leave. I told Mother you were too strong to die." "Hey there, Princess," Daniel said gently. "Sorry I scared you." "You saved me," she said seriously. "And now you're my big brother. That's how it works in our culture. When someone saves your life, they become family." Queen Min smiled. "She is correct. In tradition, you are now bound to our family by blood debt. You have become what we call a life-sworn sibling to my daughter." "I'm honored," Daniel said and meant it. The door opened and entered with Dr. Hoon. Both doctors looked pleased to see Daniel awake and alert. "Your vital signs are strong," said after examining him. "Better than I expected. Whatever they did during that surgery, it worked." "It was teamwork," Dr. Hoon said, "and perhaps a bit of luck. You are healing remarkably well for the injuries you sustained." They ran several tests while the Queen and Princess watched. Everything showed that Daniel's body was accepting the repairs and recovering properly. In a few weeks, he would be back to full health. "Can I walk?" Daniel asked. "In a few days," said. "For now, rest is the best medicine." Over the next 2 days, Daniel received visitors. Brandon Cole brought reports from Earth. Ambassador Lisa Park shared news about the trade negotiations, which had resumed with surprising cooperation from the side. The story of Daniel's sacrifice had changed the tone of the discussions completely. You've done more for human-alien relations in one moment than months of diplomacy could achieve, Lisa told him. Earth wants to give you a medal. I just wanted to help a kid, Daniel said. And that's exactly why it matters. On the third day of his recovery, Daniel was sitting up in bed reading reports when Queen Min entered with an urgent expression. Princess Haywan was not with her. We have a problem, she said without preamble. The High Council is meeting right now. Some members are unhappy with how I handled your treatment. They say I showed weakness by allowing emotion to guide my decisions. What will they do? Daniel asked. I don't know yet, but there is something you should understand about politics. We value strength and logic above all else. A leader who shows too much emotion is considered unfit. My actions during your surgery may have given my enemies ammunition. I'm sorry, Daniel said. I didn't mean to cause problems. You caused nothing. I made my choices freely. She looked at him directly. During the surgery, I used an old technique to stabilize you. It created a connection between us. I experienced your memories, your motivations. I saw why you acted without hesitation. Daniel felt his face grow warm. That must have been uncomfortable. No, Queen Min said softly. It was enlightening. I saw that true strength includes the capacity for sacrifice. That courage means acting despite fear, not its absence. These are lessons my people have forgotten in our pursuit of pure logic. Before Daniel could respond, alarms suddenly blared throughout the medical bay. The lights flickered and changed to emergency red. Through the windows, Daniel could see palace guards running in formation. Brandon Cole burst through the door, his weapon drawn. We have a situation. Multiple security breaches at the palace gates. Some kind of organized attack. Queen Mint's face went cold and calculating. General Sangmin, he's making his move. Who? Brandon asked. The leader of the traditionalist faction. He has opposed my reforms and my decision to help you. She moved toward the door. I must reach the throne room and secure my daughter. Your Majesty, it's not safe, Brandon protested. I will not hide while my people face danger. She looked at Daniel. Stay here. You are still recovering. Daniel started to sit up, wincing at the pain. If there's a coup happening because of me, I'm not staying in bed. Daniel, you can barely walk, said. Then I'll crawl if I have to. Daniel's voice was hard. I won't let people get hurt because I saved a kid. Queen Min studied him for a moment, then nodded. Very well, but you follow my orders. Brandon, help him. Brandon moved to Daniel's side and helped him stand. Daniel's legs shook but held. The pain was intense but manageable. He had worked through worse during his combat medic days. They moved into the corridor where loyal palace guards had formed a defensive perimeter. Dr. Hoon joined them, carrying medical equipment. The rebels control the East Wing, a guard captain reported. General Sangmin has broadcast a message claiming the Queen is unfit to rule. He's demanding she step down. On what grounds? Queen Min asked coldly. He says you have become corrupted by alien influence, that you show weakness by allowing emotion to cloud judgment, that the humans have manipulated you through the incident with the princess. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. That's garbage. It is politics, the Queen said, and unfortunately some will believe him. My people fear change. They see cooperation with humans as a threat to our way of life. More guards arrived, reporting that Princess Haywan had been secured in the royal chambers. The rebel forces were not large, perhaps 200 soldiers, but they had positioned themselves strategically throughout the palace. This is not just about you, Lisa Park said, joining them with her diplomatic team. If they succeed in overthrowing the Queen, it will destroy human relations. Earth will see it as rejection and betrayal. Queen Min straightened her shoulders. Then we must ensure they do not succeed. Captain, gather all loyal forces. We move to retake the throne room. Your Majesty, let us handle this, the captain protested. "You should remain in safety." "I am not a ruler who hides while others fight for my throne," she said firmly. "Besides, the rebels fight for an old idea of strength. I will show them that true strength includes courage, sacrifice, and the ability to change." She looked at Daniel. "You taught me that, now I will teach my people." As they prepared to move, Daniel caught Brandon's eye. His friend looked worried but determined. They were about to walk into a war zone, and Daniel could barely stand. But he thought of Princess Haywan, scared and hiding, while her mother fought to protect both her throne and the principles of cooperation Daniel's sacrifice had come to represent. "Let's go," Daniel said. The group moved through the palace corridors, gathering loyal forces as they went. The sound of fighting grew louder. Somewhere ahead, the future of human-alien relations was being decided by force. And Daniel Carter, still recovering from nearly dying, walked steadily toward the battle. Because some things were worth fighting for, even when you were broken. The throne room doors had been sealed from the inside. Through the windows, Daniel could see rebel soldiers fortifying positions. General Sangmin stood at the center, a tall with silver hair and cold eyes. He looked like a man who believed absolutely in his own righteousness. Queen Min studied the situation from behind a column. 50 loyal guards surrounded her, with another 100 moving through the palace to secure key positions. The human delegation, including Daniel, Brandon, and Lisa, stood nearby. "He has 30 soldiers in the throne room," the guard captain reported. "Another 170 scattered throughout the palace, but many soldiers remain neutral, waiting to see who will win." "Then we must show them," the queen said. "Captain, I want communication channels opened. I will speak to my people directly." "Your Majesty, if you reveal your position." "I am not hiding," she interrupted. "Open the channels." Within moments, holographic displays appeared throughout the palace. Every screen showed Queen Mint's face. Even in the throne room, the rebels could see her. "People of," she began, her voice strong and clear. "General Sangmin claims I am unfit to rule. He says I have shown weakness by helping the human who saved my daughter's life. He says emotions make me vulnerable, that cooperation with aliens corrupts our values." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Let me tell you what I have learned. 3 days ago, my daughter nearly died. My guards stood frozen, bound by protocol and fear. But a human stranger ran without hesitation. He knew he would likely die, and he ran anyway. He sacrificed his body to protect a child he had never met." General Sangmin's face appeared on another screen. "This proves my point, Your Majesty. The humans manipulate you through guilt. They use sentiment as a weapon." "You are wrong," the queen said. "I saw inside his mind during the surgery. There was no manipulation, no hidden agenda, only pure instinct to protect an innocent. That is not weakness, General. That is strength we have forgotten." In the corridor, Daniel leaned against the wall for support. His legs ached and his body screamed for rest. But he listened intently as the queen continued. "Our civilization has become cold in pursuit of logic," she said. "We have built walls around our hearts and called it strength. But true strength is not the absence of feeling. It is the courage to feel and still act rightly. The courage to sacrifice for others. The courage to change when we are wrong." "Pretty words," General Sangmin replied. "But words do not govern empires. Strength does, and you have shown yourself weak." "Then let us test that theory," Queen Min said. "I challenge you to honorable combat, General. Single combat for the throne, as is our ancient right. Or do you lack the courage to face me directly?" The general's face showed surprise, then calculation. "You would risk everything on personal combat." "I would risk everything to prove a point. Will you accept?" There was a long pause. General Sangmin knew he had been outmaneuvered. If he refused, he would look cowardly. If he accepted, he faced the queen in personal combat, which tradition held as the highest form of settling disputes. "I accept," he finally said. In 1 hour in the palace courtyard, witnessed by all. The screens went dark. The guard captain looked horrified. Your Majesty, the general is a trained warrior. This is too dangerous. It is necessary, she said simply. My people need to see me fight for what I believe. Words are not enough. Daniel pushed himself away from the wall. There's another way. Let me help. Everyone turned to look at him. He was pale, still obviously injured, but his eyes were determined. Daniel, you can barely stand, Lisa said. I'm not talking about fighting. I'm talking about showing the people what this is really about. He looked at the Queen. General Sangmin says humans are weak, that helping me was a mistake. Let me stand with you. Let everyone see that humans and can work together as equals. Queen Min considered this. You would risk further injury. I'm already injured. What's a little more risk? She smiled, the first genuine smile Daniel had seen from her. Very well, but you will not fight. You will stand as witness, showing my people what cooperation looks like. The hour passed quickly. The palace courtyard filled with soldiers from both sides, watching nervously. Citizens gathered outside the palace gates, following the events on public screens. This moment would define their empire's future. Queen Min entered the courtyard wearing simple combat armor. General Sangmin waited at the center, armed and ready. Daniel stood near the edge with Brandon and several loyal guards. He could barely remain standing, but he would not sit. Not now. The combat began with traditional formality. Both opponents bowed, then drew their weapons. The general carried a plasma blade. The queen held an energy staff, the weapon of royalty. They circled each other slowly. The general struck first, a testing blow that the queen blocked easily. They exchanged several strikes, both fighters skilled and careful. You have grown soft, Your Majesty, the general said. Time was, you would have ended this fight already. Time was, I fought without understanding why, she replied. Now I know what I fight for. The general increased his pace, pressing the attack. Queen Min defended well, but Daniel could see she was being driven back. The general was younger, stronger, and had been training constantly while she managed an empire. Then something unexpected happened. Princess HFY appeared at the courtyard entrance, having escaped her guards. She saw her mother fighting and screamed. The sound distracted the queen for just a moment. That moment was enough. The general's blade sliced across her arm, drawing blue blood. Queen Min stumbled back. Daniel moved without thinking, despite his injuries. He pushed through the pain and ran to the princess, catching her before she could run into the combat zone. It's okay, he told her gently. Your mother is strong. She'll be fine. The princess clung to him, crying, I don't want her to get hurt. Neither do I, but sometimes we have to fight for what's right. Your mother is fighting for the future, for a world wherein humans can be friends. In the courtyard, the queen had recovered. She saw Daniel holding her daughter, protecting her again despite his own pain. Something in her expression hardened with resolve. She attacked with renewed strength. Her staff moved in patterns the general clearly had not expected. He defended desperately, forced back step by step. Within moments, she had disarmed him, his plasma blade flying across the courtyard. Queen Min held her staff to the general's throat. Yield. General Sangmin looked at her with bitter defeat. Kill me. That is the old way. I could, she agreed. The old way demands it, but I choose a new way. A way where we grow stronger through cooperation, not isolation. Where we value courage and compassion as much as logic and strength. She lowered her weapon. You are exiled from the palace, but your life is spared. Let that be my first act in this new era, mercy instead of tradition. The general bowed stiffly. You may have won today, but your ideals will fail. Aliens will betray you. Then we will deal with that if it comes, the queen said. But I would rather trust and be disappointed than never trust at all. That is what this human taught me. She gestured to where Daniel stood with Princess HFY. The image was broadcast across the empire. A human, barely able to stand, protecting a child while her mother fought for a better future. General Sangmin's supporters saw this and understood. Their rebellion was not about strength versus weakness. It was about fear versus hope, and they had chosen fear. One by one, the rebel soldiers laid down their weapons. Without their leader's conviction, the coup collapsed like a house made of cards. The guard captain approached Queen Min. "Your Majesty, the palace is secure. The rebellion is over." She nodded tiredly. "Take the rebels into custody. They will face justice but not execution. We are not monsters." She walked to where Daniel stood with her daughter. Princess Haewon ran to her mother, hugging her tightly. The queen held her child close, then looked at Daniel. "Once again, you protected what I hold dear," she said softly. "She needed someone," Daniel replied. "I was there." "You are always there when needed, it seems." She touched his shoulder gently. "Come, you need medical attention and we all need rest. Tomorrow we will build a better future." 6 months passed. The attempted coup became a turning point in history. Queen Min implemented reforms that opened her empire to greater cooperation with other species. The High Council, restructured after the rebellion, supported her new direction. Daniel recovered completely. He accepted a permanent position as liaison between humanity and the Empire. Earth was pleased with the arrangement, seeing it as a victory for diplomatic relations. On a warm evening in the palace gardens, preparations were for Princess Haewon's 8th birthday celebration. Daniel stood near the entrance, watching human and children playing together. It was a sight that would have been impossible 7 months ago. "Impressive, is it not?" Queen Min appeared beside him. She wore elegant robes of silver and blue, less formal than her usual attire. "It's amazing," Daniel agreed. "The changes you've made are working." "We have barely begun," she said, "but it is a start, and it began with your sacrifice." "I just did what needed doing." "That is what makes it remarkable." She paused. "The council has asked me to make a formal request. They want to establish an exchange program where youth can study on Earth and human youth can study here. They believe learning from each other will strengthen both our peoples." "I think that's a great idea. Will you help coordinate it? You have become a bridge between our worlds, Daniel Carter. Your presence gives people hope." "I'd be honored." Princess Haewon ran up to them, breathless and smiling. "Daniel, you promised to dance with me at my party. It's almost time." "Did I promise that?" Daniel asked with mock seriousness. "Yes, you promised last week." "Well, if I promised, then I have to keep my word." He offered his hand and she took it, giggling. Queen Min watched them walk toward the celebration area. Brandon Cole joined her, carrying 2 glasses of wine. "He's become quite popular here," Brandon observed. "The people call him the brave human. Some kids want to grow up to be like him." "He is a good role model," the Queen agreed. "He shows that true courage is not about violence or conquest. It is about choosing to help when help is needed, regardless of personal cost." "That's what Earth needs too. We've got plenty of people who talk tough, not enough who actually step up when it matters." The party began as the sun set over the palace. Human and guests mingled freely, sharing food and stories. Daniel danced with Princess Haewon, laughing as she stepped on his toes. The Queen watched with a smile, surrounded by reformed council members who had once opposed her. Later that evening, after most guests had left, Queen Min approached Daniel again. "There is one more thing, a personal request." "Of course." "Will you dance with me, just once? It is time I broke another tradition." Daniel was surprised. In culture, the Queen dancing with a commoner was nearly unheard of, but he nodded and offered his hand. They moved to the center of the garden where soft music played. As they danced, the Queen spoke quietly. "You know what you gave me that day?" she asked, "when you saved Haewon." "I'm not sure what you mean." Hope, she said simply. I had become so focused on strength and logic that I forgot what it felt like to hope, to believe things could be better. You reminded me that courage and compassion are not weaknesses. They are the foundations of real strength. You would have figured that out eventually, Daniel said. Perhaps, but you made it impossible to ignore. She looked into his eyes. Thank you, Daniel Carter, for saving my daughter, for refusing to let me abandon you, for standing with me when my own people turned against me. You saved far more than one child's life. You saved my empire's soul. I think your empire saved itself, Daniel replied. I just gave it a little push in the right direction. They finished the dance as artificial stars appeared in the garden, a technology that made night celebrations magical. Daniel looked around at the gathered people, human and alien together, and felt something he had not felt since losing his sister years ago. Peace, not because the pain was gone, but because something good had come from tragedy. Princess Haywan ran up as the dance ended. Mother, Daniel, come see what Dr. Hoon made for me. They followed the excited child to where the doctor displayed a holographic sculpture of the three of them together. It showed the queen, the princess, and Daniel standing as a family. This will be placed in the Palace Museum, Dr. Hoon explained, to commemorate the beginning of the new era, the era of cooperation. Daniel looked at the sculpture and thought about everything that had happened. He had come to this world as part of a diplomatic mission, just doing his job. He had ended up changing history simply by doing what felt right in a moment of crisis. As he stood there with Queen Min and Princess Haywan, with friends both human and surrounding them, Daniel understood something important. Courage was not about grand gestures or dramatic speeches. It was about small choices made in critical moments, about choosing to run toward danger instead of away, about choosing hope over fear. The queen had refused to let the human die, and in doing so, had chosen a better future for her entire civilization. And that, Daniel thought, was worth every broken bone, every moment of pain, every risk he had taken. Some things were worth saving, some people were worth fighting for, and some futures were worth believing in, even when it seemed impossible. Under the artificial stars, surrounded by friends and allies from two worlds, Daniel Carter smiled. This was only the beginning.